I'm Vikramaditya and welcome to JH Softech and JHS Infotech as well. So in this session, we're going to discuss about very basics of SAP. So if you're completely new to SAP, this would be very important for you. Even if you're working in SAP for a considerable amount of time, there might be a few things that you can learn from this session. So please go through this entire session. It's very important and value for your time. So let's start. Now this screen which we are able to see on the screen is something which is the first screen in SAP, where once you log in into SAP, this is the screen that you are going to see, and this is called the SAP Easy Access screen. Once you give your credentials and log in from the SAP logon pad, this is what you will see. And then from here you have something called favorites and SAP menu. These are the two main things that you're going to see here. And in this SAP menu, we'll have a couple of things. Now, anyone who is working on SAP, whether it might be end users or consultants of different types like functional consultants, technical consultants, or administration experts, anyone has to start their work from here. This is the main screen. So it's always good to have complete knowledge on the basic screen so that we can use all these tools and options clearly. So let's start off with the favorites. Okay, so before we start with favorites, let me tell you that if you want to open a particular screen, there are there are ways to do it, and to directly go jump into a particular screen, just like we have website address for websites, we'll have something called transaction codes here in SAP. Now there are two ways of going ahead with the transaction codes. Either you can browse it from this SAP menu, or you can directly type the transaction code. So let me show you a particular transaction code. For example, like let's say we have logistics. In this we have the material management, and then we have the purchasing, and then we have the purchase order, and here we have the create. So here we have create, change, and display, or maintain, supplement, and all. So we have vendor unknown. So I'm creating a vendor unknown vendor. So when I double click on it, it opens a screen here, and the same screen can be opened using a direct transaction code called ME21N. You can see that transaction code here. So here it opened ME25 for creating a vendor of creating a purchase order with an unknown vendor. So if it's a vendor and supply plant known, then this is a screen that will be open. And for this, the transaction code here is ME21N, which I was talking about. So let's say we have ME21N. So I can directly type here ME21N, and then we'll get into the same screen here. So going forward, all the professionals will always prefer to access the screen using the transaction codes rather than transaction code rather than this browsing. So this is what normally all the consultants will do. So here we have this ME21N. So if I type ME25, it will not work. So ME25 and ME25 transaction is there, but it will not work. The main reason for that is because we are already in one transaction, so you cannot open a new transaction. To open a new transaction from here, you either have to open a new GUI by clicking on this start button, or you can type /o ME25. Now when you type /o opens this whatever transaction that we give after ME20 after /o, it will open up in a new screen. And when you type /n, it will close the existing transaction or existing screen and open a new screen. This is what happens here. So let's first go with that /o ME25, and when you open it, it opens the new screen here. But then basically we have landed into the screen, and if you observe here, this whole screen is already there, the first screen, and we have opened it opened in the second screen. Now let me try out with me/nme22. Now what happens here is it will open in the same screen. This screen will be closed and system will open it in the same screen. Now if you observe here, we've got this screen and the second screen is now closed, and in the same screen we have opened another one. This. Okay, now if you would like to close the screen, click on the cancel and it will come to the SAP Easy Access screen. So anytime you are on the SAP Easy Access screen, you don't have to type /o or /n. You can directly type the transaction code and you can get it. So I'll just type SE80 transaction. SE80 happens to be the ABAP development workbench. This is the main screen from where all the ABAPers, the coding team, will do the programming and creating the objects, changing the objects, development. There are a lot of things that can be done from this ABAP development workbench, which happens to be transaction code SE80. Now that I have shown how to log in into SE80 from the directly typing the transaction code, we can also do it from the browser, going to the tools, and we have ABAP workbench, and then we have the development. Then we have this an overview. So this is there will be an option for ABAP development workbench, and if you just type that, and if you just double click on this ABAP development workbench, automatically it will go there. So let me open this application hierarchy SAP. So it basically opened the hierarchy. Uh, then we have this ABAP workbench. Object navigator will be there. So yeah, this is the object navigator. So when you click on the object navigator, it will come to that SE80 transaction. So whenever you have already landed up in a particular screen and you would like to check the transaction code, all that you have to do is just click on this icon that we see here down below, and you'll get the system details, client details, and all. Now you can see that the transaction code is SE80. Now here what we need to observe here is that once we log in, it might be possible that most of the times you have to use couple of transactions on a regular basis, especially when end users are using it. End users have to log in into the transaction codes that we have here, but the consultants will have different transaction codes, which I'll be explaining you in this session a later point of time. But if you just see this, and then we have sales order, and then we have the master data. In this master data we have the business partner, and then we have this sales prospect and create. So let's assume that if end user have to create a sales prospect on a regular basis, then they can actually add this into the favorites down on the top, so that they don't have to search it like this. So if I double click on this create, and I just give some customer number which is existing, and then if I go forward, it will show up the transaction code here. Now, when you open this, and we've got this client transaction code. The transaction code is V plus 21. So just in case if you want to add this V plus 21 into the mains favorites, we can do that. So you can also see the transaction code from here, system and status. So when you go for system and status, we will be getting into the screen wherein you will have this V plus 21 transaction, and you will also can see the program name and all. So then we can go for this V plus 21, and this V plus 21 is something which we have here, and so we would like to add this on the main screen. Now how do we do that? We can just have to go to the favorites, right click on this, and you have to click on insert transaction, and in this we have to give this as V plus 21 and say OK. Now we have successfully added this in the favorites. So even if you have logged in later, if you have logged out and logged in later, whenever you log in with your credentials, in the favorites you can see this create sales prospect by default. And when you double click on this, it will open up this screen, and you can probably do the whatever function that you want to do. You can do it from there, and this is something which you can do it on a for anything that is very frequently used transaction codes. Now, if at all, if you are a functional consultant, then all your work will start with from a transaction code called SPRO. This SPRO is a very popular and very important transaction for you as a functional consultant, no matter which functional consultant you are. If you are SAP consultant, you want to be consultant, or finance consultant, sales consultant, warehouse, or production planning, any of the functional consultants, you have to start your work of configuration or customization from this SPRO transaction. So you can just see this transaction here. SPRO is the transaction code, and you can actually select what you would like to see here. So if you want to see the system, by default it will show the system, but I would like to see the transaction code on a regular basis. So transaction code will be here. So we have this SAP reference IMG information, and product analysis. Then you have to click on the SAP reference IMG, and this is where all the configuration have to start. So every configuration, the heart of the configuration is enterprise structure. We have to first configure the enterprise structure. Probably most of the times this is done by the finance consultants, because all the configurations will start from the finance team. So first configuration will be done by finance team. Even before anyone starts working on this system, first the basis consultants will log in. Now, who are the basis consultants? The administration department. Consultants, what they do is they actually give you the access, take back the access, grant access. These all things are done by the by those consultants. Now here, the the administration consultants or the basis consultants would be probably working from the from transaction codes which start with SA. So I'll just give you an example. SA 12. So this is something like SCA 12. Now SCA stands for System Administration. SCA stands for System Administration. So what did I type here is SCA 12. So most of the transaction codes which will start with SA will be for the administration team. Now, if at all, if anything starts with SE stands for System Engineering, and SE 38 is ABAP editor. So this is system engineering is normally taken care by the ABAP people. Now, I'm not saying here that all the technical consultants. Okay, I'm sorry, my dog keeps troubling me. Okay, now here we have the administration department. Is We were talking about the administration transaction codes, and then the system engineering, like that ABAP consultants transaction codes. And I stress on that point that all the transactions might not start with SA, which are being used by the administration department, but most of them are used by administration department. Other than that, we have a lot of other transaction codes also, which the administration department or the administration team uses, which start with other than SA. Now here, now, if you go for these tools, most of them are being used by the technical consultants, the development consultants, and those are called ABAP team. So anyone who is working on ABAP area might have to use all these transaction codes. It's always good to remember the transaction codes, but going forward, if you observe, SAP is trying to actually scrap the concept of transaction codes, especially from the end user's perspective. They are trying to avoid the transaction codes, and they have developed user interfaces which are mostly focused on accessing browsing, just by keeping the browser on a folder and just drag and drop and click kind of a process. There's no need for remembering the transaction codes in the future. So now this is one kind of a process that we have, and these are the web client UI frame. If you want to develop user interface which is on web based, you can actually make use of this. Now, if you have this office, so even I've observed that even experienced consultants are not much aware of this office, why it is being used. See, basically, you can actually use SAP to send mail to each other. Now, let's say two of you are working on SAP, and each one of you have a different user ID or login ID. Then you can probably log in into one user, and then the other person can actually receive your mail. So you can send a mail and you can receive a mail within the SAP environment. And in fact, you can also chat with each other. So if you go for the workplace, and in the workplace we'll have the inbox. So I don't have any messages here, but what I'll do is, even though my user ID here is 92 user 52, I will send the message to the same user ID, so that in the inbox there will be one mail that will be coming here. So I'm giving a new message here. The message title here is SAP workplace demo. And then I'm giving this as like so I'm saying this is a sample mail email within SAP environment. Now, whatever you want to type, you can type. You can also set attachments as well. You can also add attachments and send it to others. So once we have done this, you can actually click on the send. But when you have to send it, the recipient name have to be there. So recipient name will be here. So what I'll do is, I'll give this recipient name as 92 user 50, my user ID only, because in this client I'm using my user ID again. So 92 user 52, enter. And this happens to be recipients, and keeping it, this is a login ID or SAP logon name. So I'm selecting this as SAP logon name, and then click on save, and click on send. So when I send it, then what happens immediately, because I have sent it to my own ID, in the inbox, if I refresh, I'll get that mail. Okay, so unread documents one. So this will be shown as unread until I read it. So just imagine that you have sent it to some other user, then they will be getting a message like this, and we double click on it. And after double clicking, you will be able to see that message here. This is a sample email within SAP environment. Now here you can also have this attachments. Just in case if you have attachments, you can see that here it's in the mail itself. So it's a very useful kind of a tool. And if you want to directly go into this business workplace, you can directly type the transaction code called SBWP. SBWP. So it's SAP, SBWP stands for SAP Business Workplace. Now, there is one very interesting and important concept that we have to know, that you can actually read documentation within SAP and understand what exactly you can read the documentation, help documentation. How do you do that is, from the main screen you can go to the help, and you have different types of helps. So just in case if your learning content has been installed, you can just click on it and the learning content will be open. So in my case, it's actually, let me check that, because I have not installed the learning content. Just in case if it is there, it's actually trying to take it from the online. So but it has not been installed and connected. But if you have the SAP library also have to be installed. And just in case if it is done, you will be able to see that. And release notes also, you can just check that, if it is if it is already been there. So if you have my release notes, and you can see what is your release, and the release that I'm working right now is a 470 4.7 version. It's a bit old version of, obviously, but I'm just trying to show this. And definitely in the coming sessions, I'm going to also explore the latest GUI that we are using, like the HANA Studio, Eclipse, and Fury, stuff like that. But now, let me go back to the main screen. I'll just type /n. I'll go to the main screen. Oh, so let me go for /o. So a new screen opens here, but then I'll go for /n SE38. So it opens in SE38 transaction code. So when I go back, it actually goes to, okay, I click on start SAP Easy Access. So the SAP Easy Access starts. And now, just in case if you are getting too much of sounds, like you don't want the sound, but you are continuously getting the sound, whenever you click something or whenever you process something, then you can switch off the sounds if you want, and you can even switch on. So in my case, whatever I'm clicking here, it doesn't actually make any noise or sound. So what I can do is I'll switch on the sound and also switch off the sound as well. So I'll go for this SAP options. Now here, this is a settings option that we have here icon. You can click on these options, and then you can go for the sound settings and activate audio signal. So when I say activate audio signal and say okay, then what happens here is, like, whenever I'm typing anything slash I'm just typing AC38 and say enter. So basically, I need to just log out and log in, so that it'll show up that whatever changes that we have, it'll show up. Okay, I'll just normally go ahead and log in again. So the old one will be logged out. Now what you see on the top is the client. So when I say enter, now I can anything that I click here, it will actually give you a kind of a sound. So if I just go for back, and if I go for office, so it gives a sound in the backend. So if I double click on this owner, so there is a sound coming in if you observe, and this is coming because I have activated the sound. But if you don't want that sound, let me actually pull out the sound again. So I'll go for the options, and I don't want the sound, so activate the sound. I'm just unchecking the activate sound and click on apply, then okay. And then if I come back, and I have to again log in to do these changes. I have to again log in. So I'll go for this again, a log on pad, and log in again. Okay, so I'm logging in again, and when I log in again, since I switched off the sounds, now you will not be able to hear the sound because it has become completely silent. And now if you observe uh, the layout is blue color. So if you don't want to, if you don't like blue, and what if you want to just have a green color outlook, so all that you have to do is go to the theme, and then we have to go for this whatever changes that we have. You can go for this uh, Corbu theme or SAP signature theme, enjoy theme. So I'm going for enjoy theme. So let's say we have it. This is an old version actually. So when I go for apply again, these settings will be applied when I log in again. So let me log in again and then check it. And if you see here, you can see a different kind of a layout now once I log in again. So if you see here, this is more or less the same that similar thing, but it is slightly different here. This is what we have, and then we go for options, and you can also change the color settings. So color settings, if at all, if you have here, there is no option to do that, but if at all, if it is provided, you can actually change the color in the system. So we have this interaction, key visual, key settings, and then we have the visualization, and have this notification, control settings, sound settings, which you have to explore. So these are the things that are very basic and good to know, and sometimes it is very helpful, just in case, to make it more comfortable for you to work. So you can go for the security settings. In security settings, you can open security configuration, and you can do that. But most of the cases, this option of going ahead and giving you the access to set security will not be there. So it will be just it'll be disabled for you. So I'm going for the Corbu theme. So this Corbu theme is something like this. Apply OK. So the layout will be somewhat different here. So this is the layout. I can show you this. This slightly looks, kind of a dull colors and all. You can observe that if you observe carefully, you can see that there is a slight change there. But if you have this color change will be quite different, and you can actually go for that. And you can also have the spell checker. You can switch on the spell checker always, and then we have something called then we have this default size. You can increase the default size, especially when you are writing on editor, if at all if you are using editor. And then we have this options in which we can also have this font settings. So the by default font setting that we have here is the Courier, New, and Lemon. So whatever you see here on the menu is of Courier, New, and Lemon. So let's try to change it to something else. So there are not many too many options here. So I'll go for something called fixed sys, and say here I'll go for the length as 11. Say OK. Say OK. And as we already know, any settings have to be reflected. Then you have to log in again. So you can see this like whatever login you have. Let me go for this logistics and production and master data. We have this bill of material, bill of material, bill of material, create. So when we click on create, we have this as valid from, and then we have this 21222. And if you see the font of this 21222, it is basically the concept that we have here. Now the font that we have changed is visible here. Now let's go back and to the main screen and explore a few more things here. Now we have got this, the question mark wherein it's called F1 help. So whatever you select, if at all, if any documentation exists for that, you can have this. It will be shown here. And then we have this reporting and all. So every concept that we have is segregated based on a particular module. If you have this material management, all the transaction codes which are related for material management, the end user transaction codes are all here. You can access them and you can make use of them. But as I was stressing on the SPRO, so SPRO is where we can actually do the configurations. You cannot do the configurations from the functional point of view from this main screen. You have to go to the SPRO, and for functional consultants for doing the customization and configuration, this happens to be the main screen. So every time they'll be always logging into this SPRO transaction code, and this is where we have to do all the configurations for the system. It's taking some time to open. Maybe I didn't have to re-log in. Sometimes what happens here is the administration team sets a particular time. So if you're not using the screen for a couple of seconds or minutes, automatically it will be logged off. So I guess the same thing happened with me. So let me try to log in again and start doing it. So